Welcome to the Elevate podcast, brought to you by the Registered Master Builders. Each week we explore the ideas and practices that help us get the best from our businesses, our teams and ourselves. I'm your host, Rafael Caso. We talk to experts, advocates and business owners in the construction industry to share their knowledge, insights and experiences to help you build a better business and enjoy a better life. Now let the business building begin. Our guest today on the Master Builders Elevate podcast is a champion of mental fitness in the construction industry. Rafael Caso heads the Live Well, Build Well organisation that is supporting business owners and team members' mental and physical fitness. Rafael walks the talk. He's worked extensively in construction himself, and we learn what he does on a daily basis to stay mentally fit. See how learning Spanish is just one of the tips he has. The essence of Live Well, Build Well is tradies supporting each other by sharing what helps them to maintain mental fitness. Rafael shares simple and easy to apply tips to keep your head in good shape as you navigate the inevitable challenges we face in construction. Enjoy. Rafael, great to have you on the Master Builders Elevate podcast. We're going to be talking about such a critical topic today, which is our mental health, our mental wealth. You're an expert in this area with your Live Well, Build Well organisation. Can you start by telling us a little bit about your background? How did you arrive at this spot in your life?
Yeah, hi there, Ryan. Thank you so much for your time and to listen to the Live Well, Build Well story. Yeah, sure, my background. So, Ryan, my background was in residential construction, in some site management for GJ Gardeners and earthworks and managing a lot of the civil works. And in that time, I also, with that role, I was working in health and safety. So over the years, I listened into dozens of talks about contractors and about them being in this terrible state and suicide, for a lot of them suicidal. I was really concerned about that. And there was one thing that over time, after listening to multiple talks about this with different organizations, was that there wasn't really a talk to prevention or a talk to helping tradies prevent from being ill. So I set about creating a very amateur, it's quite funny, nothing much has become better. It's still quite amateur what I do, but I created quite an amateur podcast. And in that podcast, Ryan, I started to interview experts, chiropractors, counselors, financial experts, and all the areas that I thought that I could gather some really good education to help tradies. Long story short, it caught the attention of ACC. And ACC, they came to me and they said, hey, what are you doing? I explained what I was doing. Who's your audience? Residential construction workers. And they were like, that's fascinating because we're going to create a program, a prevention program. And they connected me to the Live Well, Build Well leadership team. So that's how I entered the role as the engagement, the program lead. Is in sort of I went about just doing it, and then it caught the attention of ACC, and they connected me with the leadership. That's the leadership today.
What a cool story.
Yeah, it really concerned me that I sort of looked at mental health at that stage as something that you could educate yourself in, and then go about very proactively to put in some really good habits and routines. So that was the where it sort of connected well with the ACC program that we lead.
Yeah. And I think just to be really clear with our audience, you're about positivity and prevention rather than trying to be the crisis manager at the other end of the, at a risk of using an inappropriate analogy, the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. That's not the role you're trying to play. You're really trying to play in the prevention space. Is that correct?
Great question, Ryan. Ryan, we look at, you're absolutely right. We look at wellbeing as a scale of 1 to 10. Now, if you think about 10, that would be a peak athlete that's living his best or his or her best life, peak performance in every area. And if you look at 1 is at the polar opposite with some big, health and big concerns. Now, we're really talking to people, Ryan, that sit between 3 and 6, and we're trying to push them closer to 10. Where that crisis ends, the people that are more at the crisis end, they're really below 3. We're really trying to support people that see themselves sitting with their mental fitness, their mental health. They're sitting a little bit lower than they should be, or maybe they're sitting a little bit better than average, but we're trying to push them to the as close as we can to 10. And the reason for that, Ryan, is that if you have an abundance of well-being, that you've over time that you've created all these great habits, fine-tuned your routine. What we're saying is that you can't avoid challenges, especially in construction, but in any workforce, you're going to be continuously challenged. And if you look at the last 5 years, there've been, one challenge after the other. So what we're saying is that rather than wait for that challenge and deal with what you're going to do about it, even if you're sort of sitting at around 5 or 6, start working on making some improvements right now so that when you do have that challenge, you're going to have an abundance of well-being and you're going to be able to navigate your way through that challenge with a lot more confidence, because that's what we're really trying to support the construction force with, is having confidence in with dealing with challenges, because where we see problems can arise is where people that are challenged, they naturally sort of feel, I've got no control over this. I'm now going to be spiraling down. And what we're saying is, well, wait a second, you do, but you need to start making some good changes from today. Little changes. We're not talking about life transformations. We're talking about incremental improvements day to day that over time really become powerful.
Okay. I'm really keen to learn some of those things that you get people to work on. Just before we go there, curious, when you say I might be feeling maybe a 5 or a 6, what might be some of literally the feelings or outlook that I've got going on at the moment that would help me identify that, I've been in that place, or maybe I'm in that place right now. What does a 5 or 6 look like?
Yeah, look, I think a 5 or a 6 is where you're surviving. You feel content. Maybe there's not a lot of joy in your life. You're not doing a lot of exploring, a lot of creativity. Maybe you're not really spending time with the people that really make life fun for you. Builders, we do a lot of surveys, Ryan, and one of the things that we've been able to capture with an annual Ipsos survey is that a lot of builders become quite isolated. They start sort of, all their responsibilities are with work and their family. And for themselves, they tend to put themselves last, or certainly not at their top, make themselves their own priority. So what we're really saying, when I say we, the program, the Live Well, Build Well, what we're trying to achieve is say, hey, listen, guys, if you're feeling okay, but you sort of feel there's something missing, spend some time and, work, do things for yourself that make you, that bring joy, put time aside each day for an activity. Doesn't have to be off playing golf for half a day or fishing for the weekend. Small things, lots of small things that you're investing in yourself, So we look at well-being as a bank account, and then as, there's a lot of withdrawals, challenges, but then what we're saying is invest in your well-being bank account, do the things that you need to do. So to answer your question, Ryan, like someone that's sitting at 5 or 6 doesn't have they may be coping, they may be, going from day to day, feeling okay, but they're lacking a little bit of, a bit more joy than, there's something lacking a little bit. They're not really maybe putting some time to themselves to do the things they really enjoy, because that would push you more further up that scale.
So as a teammate, I might be observing someone that normally has some good spark and energy on the work site, and they just seem a bit flat. They're still turning up and getting the job done, but they're maybe not participating in some of the banter that they would normally would be involved in. I use that word flat. So that would be kind of observing maybe someone in that kind of zone.
Yeah, I'd say so. Bit flat, not engaging with others, sort of just sort of going about work, head down, tail up, not really engaging with others too much. Yeah, that's it. Which I guess a lot of people sit in that category, to be honest. And it's not a bad category, but there's room, I guess, there's room for improvement. And that's what we're really encouraging people to do, is to sort of really work on themselves and get themselves in a good frame of mind.
And what have been some of those small things that you've seen people do for themselves to bring some joy back into their world?
Yeah, nice one, Ryan. Ryan, the big part of the program, now this is really important. This is where we're also quite unique, and it's an important thing to pass on. We're not telling anyone what to do, okay? We've got lots of experts that sit behind me, a sports psychologist, a professor of health, you name it. We've got great experts that are leading the program. Our program, Ryan, is tradie led. And then you may be wondering what that means. What we're doing is that we're a social movement program. We're getting tradies themselves to tell us, the ones that are enthusiastic to share what they're doing, the ones that are doing great things, that have really navigated some big challenges for themselves. We're interviewing them, and they're telling us all the great things that they're doing. They're telling us about the activities that they've begun to do that have really lifted their well-being. So a big part of our program is in being a catalyst for tradies to actually lead their own solutions. We sit back and we monitor it, and we sort of ask the right questions, and they come forward and they say, hey, look, these are the great things that I've been doing to really make a big improvement. And quite simply, after running being the engagement, the program lead for the last year, every person's unique, and every person has a unique needs in what they need to do. So there isn't like a one fits all approach. Sure. Like I hear such a wide range of things that people are doing. Everything from having good control over technology, being very disciplined with technology. And what I mean by that is having a good practice of being able to switch off your bloody work phone at the end of the day, even if it's for a few hours. I understand you need to sort of check on what, the suppliers and the other contractors, and
sure,
you've got those responsibilities. But I hear everything from people being able to switch off their phone 2 to 3 hours, spend dedicated time with their partners, their children, with some fitness, and then later on in the evening, they'll turn the phone back on and they'll go, okay, I need to sort of get some work done. About, having that sort of discipline and making that a routine, making that habit rather than something you do once in a while. So I hear things like that. I hear about how builders and traders have surrounded themselves. They've been able to identify individuals that really support them and really appreciate those individuals. They know in their head who they can lean on if they need to. They know exactly who it is that they have in their life that they could phone. And we call that person a 3 a.m. person, someone they could potentially, it's unlikely to happen, but someone that they know they could ring at 3 a.m. and then discuss, something that's really concerning them. So then I hear great stories, and then we share those great stories through video on tradespeople that know exactly who they have that support them. And I'll tell you something quite interesting. After doing this for a couple of years and asking that question quite often, more than often it's the partners. So it's the wife, or and then I'm not saying, oh wow, isn't that surprising? Because of course it's the partner. But I thought that for a lot of people it could be like a mate at work, or it could be an old school friend, or someone at the gym. But no, more often than not, for a lot of the guys that I speak to, and also the woman, it's their husband or wife. That's their number one support. So so that's been great to hear that people have, a lot of these small builders, they've got a strong family, and they know that they can count on their wife, they can count on their husband, their adult kids, and pretty powerful. So Ryan, to answer your question, sorry if I sort of went on a bit there, but ultimately each individual has a unique set of needs, and really what we're encouraging and trying to be a catalyst for is to boost and amplify the great things that our tradies are already doing, their own solutions that they already have found for themselves, and then be able to spread that awareness. Because the likeliness of a tradie listening to like some expert and take advice is a lot less likely than if they were to see someone that's got the same job as them, same challenges. There's a much higher likeliness that they would think, you know what, I've been inspired. I'm gonna give that a go. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I like a saying is you can be what you can see. So a succinct way of saying that same thing. If you can see other people who look like you, are in similar circumstances to you, and you hear how they're improving their mental fitness and things that they're getting, and if I can see it, I can be it. So it's a great model you've built into the program there. Tell us, Rafael, more about mental fitness as a term. I love the positive aspect. I think so often we've got a really good understanding of what physical fitness looks like.
Yeah.
We know that, depending on what you're pursuing, if you go and do, more reps of something, you get stronger and better at what you're doing, whether that's in the
Mm.
gym or riding your bike or surfing, doesn't matter. But we have this
Yeah.
understanding of how we can apply that in our physical bodies. Tell
Yes.
us, how are you applying that concept to our mental health?
Yeah, nice one, right? So first of all, everything you just described before with physical fitness, that's 100% also mental fitness. Your mind and body are connected 100%. So having good activity, moving a lot, it's going to boost a lot of feel good endorphins in your mind. You're going to feel great
Yes.
for that. So that's part of mental fitness. But really, what we're trying to encourage builders and tradies to consider is to bring some awareness to some of the basics. Let's start from the basics. If you look at the term mental fitness, let's go right to the beginning. What are the five? We have five fundamental areas in mental fitness that we've broken down. We call it 5S. And for a lot of people, it's obvious, but people don't really think about it much. So the 5S, 5 words beginning with S, the five important things that can start, that you can bring awareness to, and you can fine tune, that can make a big boost with your mental fitness. Number one, sleep. Think to yourself, am I getting 7 to 8 hours quality sleep a night? Am I waking up feeling refreshed? If not, what's going on? Do I feel exhausted when I wake up? Have a think about that. And a lot of what we're doing, Ryan, is we're asking tradies to think about it and bring some awareness to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the years, the sleep's you get such a wide range of answers. These guys that are, working as builders and tradies, they're getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep. They're gaming all night, a lot of them. And a lot of them have to think,
Yes.
and they're gaming, and some of them are stressed, and then the young ones are gaming, the older ones are sort of worried all the time, and they sort of toss and turn, and they've got maybe a little bit of insomnia. But anyway, what we're really sort of trying to encourage people is to think, where do I sit with sleep? That's one of the main basics for good well-being. It's being rested and recovered. Number two, second word beginning with S, it's a term that we use, is starting the day with good intention. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
wake up, do you have a plan for the day? Have you prioritized, scheduled in all your important must-do things? What are your core values for yourself, for your health, for your family? What are your priorities at work? Do you know what they are? Or are you winging it day to day? And all what we're saying is that, look, if you're not really planning your day, if you don't have control of your 24 hours, someone will control your 24 hours for you. They're going to sort of say, okay, you don't really look like, they're not going to say it, but they're going to be thinking, I need to help this guy out a bit. And I'm going to start giving them lots of, chores and what have you. Take control of your 24 hours. Know exactly what you need to do for the day. And then you may think, well, how does that help with mental health? How does that help with mental fitness? If you can control your time, you're going to feel in control. People that generally start to spiral down, they're overwhelmed and they don't know what they're doing. They're chasing their tail. So one of the things that we're really trying to encourage people to do, and a lot of people go, yeah, I schedule everything. I know what I'm doing for work. We're saying, yeah, great. How about after work? Have you got those activities locked in? Work and life balance, right? So that's number two, starting the day with good intention. Number three, Ryan, is sustaining energy.
Mm-hmm.
Are you fueling your body with good food? The gut and the brain directly linked. I'm
Of
sure you
course.
know that. You look like a very
Yeah.
intelligent person. You'd know there's that nerve called the vagus nerve, right?
The thing that was making me do a bit of a chuckle is how many construction sites I drive by, and
Yes,
there's early in the morning at 7 a.m. and I
yes,
see the tradies with a big can of energy drink and a vape,
yes.
and I'm just like,
That's right.
guys, you're like setting yourself up for
Yeah.
failure for the day.
That's right. That's right. So we're not trying to lecture to people like Ryan. We're not saying, "Oh, don't do this and don't do that." We're saying, "Look, have a think about it, guys. Like
Sure.
your gut and your brain, they're directly linked, right? So if you're putting bad stuff in, it's going to affect your thinking. You're going to be cloudy. You're going to be sort of, with sugar levels going up and down. You're going to have
Crashes
a
and
burst
yeah.
of you're going to have a burst of energy here, then you're going to feel tired. So we're really trying to encourage people to think about how they can sustain energy over time. And the other important thing is taking regular breaks. I hear so many tradies over the years that work right through their entire day. They go, I want to leave home. I want to get home at 4 or earlier. And then so they just work from 6 to whenever it is, and they don't take their breaks. And we're saying, guys, good mental fitness, sustain your energy. have a plan with your meals. We all know what good eating looks like. When I get a lot of feedback, Ryan, from construction people, it becomes, people that have got good habits with food. It's exactly in that planning your day stage. They've woken up a little bit earlier or the night before. They've planned a good meal for themselves, So that's really part of that planning is like planning good nutrition. And we're not talking about not having telling people not to have an energy drink, sure, but make it a treat. Don't make it like it's something you're doing every single day. So yeah, sustaining energy is the third one. That's an important one, and taking regular breaks. The fourth one, this one would have the most we'd have the most conversation about, and that's being able to switch off at the end of the day. Being able to switch off. That's an important one. That's one that a lot of people in construction, tradies, residential builders, small business owners, managing staff, all these, dynamic areas always shifting and changing. They're in work mode all day and all night. And then they come home and they're just scrolling their phone. And what we're really saying, good mental fitness, guys, is work and life balance. It's good, you work and life balance. Now, what is it that, you can do to a good activity that can help you relax when you get home so that you're present with the people that love you the most and you can be yourself. You can have time out from your busy mind. What are you doing? And I'll tell you something quite interesting. Like, you'll get the biggest, toughest builder that would put us, when we're talking about this, he'll say to me, Raf, when I'm driving home, I pass, because I live in beautiful, a beautiful semi-rural part of New Zealand. He goes, I pass a park, I pass like a nice pond, and I look at all those places as I'm driving home. And you know what I do? I stop the car and I spend 20 minutes just going for a walk around the park or around the pond, because this person, they said to me, the first 20 minutes of you walking through your front door, it will dictate the whole evening for you. So if you can come home and you've already done something like a walk around a park or even whatever it is, somewhere beautiful and natural, we're not talking about anything too hairy-fairy, something simple, something that helps you just process your day. You could sit in the car and listen to the radio for 20 minutes. But really what I liked about what this builder said to me was that if he can sort of help himself relax, and then when he walks inside the house, relaxed, and then pandemonium begins, kids racing around, all that activity that can be quite overwhelming when you're still quite busy. If you're able to sort of be quite rested in your thinking when you walk in the door, and that first 20 minutes can be quite calm because you're able to absorb a lot of that energy going on, so the rest of your night should go quite well. So that for me was like, yeah, that's a great thing. I hope a lot of people listen to that. It's really setting yourself up for success. Do something to be able to transition from switch off, right? Switch off from a very busy, or we call it stop, stop that busy mind work, that mind, and being able to transition to being at a home mode. So that's a big one. That's a big topic. And a lot of people right across the whole construction sector, really, and, right to the people because I talk also to the people in the office, and they struggle with that as well, because, people have got their work commitments, they're dedicated, they're passionate, they're responsible, and what we're saying is, well, the most important thing that you have, putting aside your amazing ute and all your toys, is your mental and physical well-being. That's the most important thing for your business. You've got to treasure that. You need to have good work-life balance, and you need to do things that help you be rested and recover. So that's something that we have a lot of conversation with. Now, for mental fitness, you'll be able to get a good handle of that. You're on your way to making some big improvements. Now, the last thing is socializing, and that goes back to what I had mentioned to you a bit earlier, where we've done a number of surveys. A lot of surveys come back. A lot of builders saying that they're feeling a bit isolated, maybe a bit lonely. They've sort of lost connection. And what big part of our message is, guys, spend time with the people that you have the most fun with. Lock it in. I speak to a lot of builders and they go, I've been caught up with the guys. We talk about all these great things that we should do, but we never do them. You know what I mean? Oh, we're going to go hunting and fishing. We're going to go to the pub and play darts, or, go for a run, or, we're going to go, the CrossFit gym, and all these things that they think are great ideas. But for a lot of them, they don't do anything at all. They just become like ideas and then they fade off. And what we're really saying is like, lock in time with your mates, man. Like
Yeah.
lock it in, like catch up. We're not talking about going off to the pub and getting, trolley. We're talking about,
Sure.
moderation. Have a beer, sure,
Yeah,
man.
of course.
But don't sort of get in the habit of fobbing people off. And I'm not of letting those social situations fade away. Get back into it. Make yourself social. I'm sure you'd agree with me, Ryan, that there's nothing more uplifting than spending time with the people that make you laugh the most, that you have the most fun with. You can walk away from that evening and you can, like, if you were in a terrible mood before you went out, I'm sure that after spending time with your mates, you're feeling a lot more lifted. And what we're saying is, make that a habit, catch up on a regular basis. And then I won't ramble on too much. I'm going on a bit, but I speak to a lot of people that have lost their connections with people, like over the years. And for a lot of them, that come forward with good ideas, because we're always like I mentioned, we're always asking tradies, what are you doing? How can you sort of reignite that social life? And a lot of them get into voluntary community type roles. So for some of them, they join the Coast Guard, and then they suddenly immersed in this very dynamic environment with new people. They're out in the sea, or maybe they're from headquarters on the great radio systems they have. So, and then for some of them, they've volunteered to be a coach, and then they found themselves suddenly immersed with all these really athletic kids racing around, and they're in charge. And then so, really about having a good social life. It's sort of identifying the things that you enjoy. And if you have lost a few connections with your mates, maybe look at a couple of things that are happening around the community. Get back out there, man. Spend some time with people. It's fun, So that's the last one. So just to say that again, Ryan, the things that can really help improve mental fitness is quality sleep, 7 to 8 hours, starting the day with good intention, sustaining energy throughout the day, switching off, ensuring that you've got good activities that help you sort of rest your thinking before you walk through the front door, be present with the people that love you the most, and socializing. So that's where mental fitness begins. That's where it begins.
I like that. It's a nice, simple framework there, easy things to think about, and the examples you gave make them really applicable and doable, right? You're not saying, hey, you need to go and meditate on a mountain for 6 hours every night after work. It is the 20-minute walk in the park. It is the catching up with some people, making the effort. And I think as a gross generalization, we see the females in our lives do a much better job of staying connected to their friend group. I think they're generally better at getting things organized, and us boys are very good at doing the great idea, let's do that, and then no one takes any action. And as you were using that example, I was like, wow, isn't it incredible? These tradies are building phenomenal projects, like incredible houses, buildings, complexes, whatever. If they just applied a little bit of the planning that they put into creating that incredible structure into their own life, treating themselves like a building project of like, what do I need? What materials do I need? Who do I need to connect with? All those kind of things.
We're dealing with very professional experts, that are expert level in what they do, and they're building homes for, tens of thousands of New Zealanders around the country. It's quite remarkable, and something to be really proud about. But then they are experts and they're highly intelligent, but become an expert in yourself. Become an expert in what you need. You are the most valuable asset to your business. Your clarity and your physical health is, your business is counting on that for sustainability to go forward. So, think of it that way. Don't think of it as something that's over the top and hairy-fairy. Man, you're the most important thing to your business. Look at it that way.
So true. Rafael, can you give us an example of someone you've worked with through the program that you've just seen made some really significant strides, and maybe a couple of things that they implemented that helped them?
Yeah, sure thing. So I try to keep in touch with people, because a lot of what I do, Live Well, Build Well, it runs quite lean. We don't have this massive, big workforce that's sort of working in regions. It's all, we're moving around. But with people that I see doing well, thinking of one individual in particular, a young build a knee operation that sort of meant that jeopardized his career because of having that strain. The things that he sort of done for himself to get himself back on track, it was a journey and it didn't come easy. But a lot of what I saw that he done, because I caught up with him on a regular basis, was when he spent a lot of time at home, where he was recovering, and then that's a danger zone when you're spending a lot of time at home, with an injury. So I think what really helped him, what he told me, was creating a really good routine, creating a very good routine and a very disciplined routine. Because once you get into that sort of not lazy, but that where you're not really thinking about it much, that's where a lot of problems. So he had a routine where each morning he'd get up at a particular time. He'd spend some time doing some self-learning, further with developing his trade and learning some other areas within construction. He would sort of have people come and visit him throughout the day, like his siblings would. He'd sort of schedule him. They would sort of say, "Hey, we're going to come in for lunch." He'd sort of make sure that he was in regular contact. Something that really helped him. He got outside, and he was someone that wasn't really a gardener, but he created his own vegetable garden, and then he spent a lot of time throughout the day working on that. And when I caught up with him months after his recovery, he did say, "Look, that was a really hard time. I did sort of find that I was up and down, but I did stick to my routine, and my routine sort of ensured that I kept quite active, keep my mind in quite an active state and not a passive state, just gaming or the other things that you can do when you switch off, just scrolling your device or watching TV." And he said that he just kept a really good routine right throughout the whole day, but it did take some discipline, and he had good and bad days. And I think that was quite an honest answer. But the best thing out of it was that he was back at work. He was back a bit earlier than they had expected. They sort of his employer didn't think that he'd be back until, well, the people that were caring for him, the professionals, they said, "Oh, you'll be back." He was back about a month earlier. So I think that's quite a good sign that his recovery was quite fast, and he's back at work doing what he loves most. So So what I got out of that the most, Ryan, was really committing to that routine and ensuring that you had quite an active day, keeping your mind active.
Correct. Well, I wonder if you could explain to us how the Live Well, Build Well program works. We might have some listeners that are like, "Hey, this is sounding good. I really like this positive approach to mental fitness." How can they get involved? What does the program look like?
Yeah, nice one. So first of all, you can invite me to lead a toolbox talk. So I'll come and I'll come on site. If you're in Auckland, that's super easy because I'm Auckland based. But if you're throughout the country, if you're calling from Dunedin, I'd have to. It'll be a little bit more difficult. But if I could get a number of different groups in at the same time, I'll come down. So I'm working across the country doing on-site toolbox talks. So that's the first way. And we can do an introduction to that mental fitness idea, an introduction to the program. Now, and just to let you know, everything we do is free. So there's no charge for anything. So that's an important thing to know also. So there's no cost for anything. Now, we've created a digital resource. All these stories where we're interviewing tradies, they're talking through the solutions that they found for themselves to navigate difficult times and all that. All of those are available if you go to YouTube and you look under Live Well, Build Well, in YouTube, you'll see all those tradie stories. So a big part of what we're encouraging people to do is follow along and listen into the stories, listen to what people just like you are doing. And chances are you may be inspired. You may hear something that really hits the mark for you, and you may go off and do that as well. So we're on all our stories, our interviews are on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Now, if you have a great story, something that you've done that really transformed your life or made some big improvements, give me a call. I'll come and interview you, and we'll record that, and then that becomes an asset in our library, and that will go on to help other people. So you can be involved in actually participating in an interview. We'd love to hear your story. We really would. The other thing is that we've partnered with SiteSafe. So SiteSafe, New Zealand's #1 health and safety educator. And we've created a mental fitness module with our Professor of Health, Professor Grant Schofield. He's a lecturer, amazing credentials. So we're currently in the progress of getting that module up online in the site-safe learning platform.
Sure.
Free, go on,
Right.
register, and then a very simple 4-module video. Listen to Grant speak, answer a few questions, and that will get you thinking. It's a good introduction to mental fitness. So that's becoming available very shortly. We're at the very final stage of getting that finalized and with the amazing team at SiteSafe. So that's the other thing. So Toolbox Talks, free digital resources, an online learning SiteSafe module, and also interviews where you can come and participate. And the other thing that we're doing now, Ryan, this is a big one, and I'm having a lot of fun doing this one, is we're looking for champions, passionate people that work in construction. And I'll tell you something, it doesn't have to be just people on the field. It could be someone in the office. I don't mind. We're trying to reach the whole sector. We're trying to reach everyone. Everyone. It's very inclusive. Anyone that's passionate about their well-being, that have some good activities, and they also have a lot of empathy for others. They're really concerned about other people, and they really want to help them. We're looking for them to join us and be a live well, build well champion. And the role is very simplistic. You lead people to where they can find your mates, show them where they can find our resources. In time, they'll be able to lead their own toolbox talk. They're not going to be these mental fitness experts, but they're going to be able to speak to mental fitness with some confidence. And then also model and demonstrate what good mental fitness looks like, and be like the person within the team that's keeping an eye on people, coming up with good ideas to support them with good activities. And we're going to be mentoring them. We're going to continue with our education program. We're going to be adding to that SiteSafe free module, and we'll support them to go on to become champions for Live Well, Build Well. So that's an important one that we've just begun, and surprisingly, it's really taken off. Like I've been approaching people, but people have been emailing me and saying, "Oh, hey, I want to be part of this. Can I be a champion?" I'm like, "Absolutely. Let's have a chat." I've got to make sure that they're actually got some commitment to it.
Yeah, for sure.
So those are the different areas, Ryan. We're doing a number of things. Yeah, but the number one thing is listen to those tradie stories on YouTube. Have a listen into what the great things that people are doing. That's a big one.
Okay. We'll make sure we put in the podcast show notes the links to all of your website, livewellbuildwell.com, YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook. We'll get all those links so people can access those nice and easily off the podcast. But you said YouTube, for example, if people just search Live Well, Build Well, they'll probably find all your clips up there. Firstly, thank you for the contribution you're making to our sector. We have statistics around our mental health and suicide that are nothing to be proud of. And it's people like you making such an incredible commitment and bringing a positive vibe to mental fitness into our sector. So firstly, on behalf of the industry, thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. I'd be curious to know, what are a couple of things you do for your own mental fitness?
Great question, Ryan. One of the things that really helped me, and it started back from COVID, is micro learning, like finding a few things that I've always wanted to learn and then spending 20 minutes doing those each day. So the number one thing that I do every single day for 20 minutes, and it's something that's really helped me, and it's keeping me quite sharp as I get older, is I've been learning Spanish. I have a Spanish-speaking father. My mother's a New Zealander, a Kiwi. But my father was of Spanish heritage, and then I've spent my whole life never learning Spanish. I used to go meet, Latin American people from Mexico and Argentina and Spain, and they'd be like, "Oh man, you can speak Spanish," and I'd be like, "No." I spend 20 minutes every day learning, continuing my progress with learning Spanish. And then how that's helped me is that, first of all, I get a lot of reward from actually keeping it up. So there's a lot of self-reward in self-learning.
Yes.
Self-learning's really underrated. It gives you a lot of reward. I'm actually, I put on Netflix from time to time, and I'm listening into these Spanish speaking movies, and I'm following along. I'm like, geez, right. I'm doing okay, man. I'm following along. I get it. Now and then I cheat and I put on the subtitles, and then I think, right, I'm going to turn the subtitles off and have another go. And I'm actually following along. So it's actually working. So that's one thing that I do, self-learning with daily on Duolingo.
Yes.
If you've heard it, that's quite a good app. Now, the second thing that I do is that I'm very conscious because I spend a lot of time doing what I'm doing right now, Ryan, sitting down in front of a computer. So I'm very conscious about how many steps that I'm doing each day, and I've got one of those little nerdy apps that's counting my steps. And I think to myself, you know what? Yeah, have you seen them? There's like once you've reached your goal of, I think my goal is like about 7,000 steps, the full circle appears. I monitor that every single day. My goal every day is to move so that my circle completes. And then I'm always checking it and I think, oh, I've only had my circle's only halfway. I'm not moving enough. Like I need to get those endorphins and all those feel good chemicals bubbling around. So rather than drive down to the cafe, literally it's like a 1 minute drive. I'll walk down, and that's a 10-minute walk. So try to swap out some lazy activity for some movement. I think that's a big one. I go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week with my teenage kids that are 17 and 19. Yeah, I'm keeping up. That's a really good habit. Having teenage kids, they keep you accountable, because a couple of times I've tried to like that. Look, I don't feel like it tonight. And they're like, come on. And then so that's been great. But the one thing that I do need to improve is really keeping up with old friends. I've made so many amazing buddies over the years that I just don't really catch up with. So, that's something I need to work on, get back in touch with them. A lot of them, Ryan, moved overseas, so I don't get to see them that often. And they all go, whereabouts are you at? I'm still in Auckland. They're like, you never left New Zealand. I was like, no, I didn't. I always liked it here.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Ryan, could I ask you, what's your number one way of resting and recovering? What's your number one to rest and recover?
Actually, I have some similar things. So I also do a certain number of steps every day, and went down a whole rabbit hole on finding out what was the ultimate number of steps. And it's interesting that you said 7,000, because that is the optimal number. If you do more than that, diminishing returns in terms of physical or mental well-being. So 7,000 is a great number. Something that I know is that people connection is very important for me. I'm an extrovert in terms of how I get my energy, is being around other people. So I do that a lot through fitness. I do different types of fitness, and sport is kind of my main connection for connecting with people.
Great.
And I also really make sure to be a yes person. So I'd been invited to a business networking event last night. I got to 5 p.m. and I'm like, I can't really be bothered going, and it's a bit of a drive and rah.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I said yes, I need to front up. Got there, and of course I had a great time, felt super energized afterwards, and came away going, look, I just need to make sure that I keep turning up to those kind of things, because they're really, really good for me.
Awesome. Yeah.
So people connection is important, and then my kind of sport. I also do gratitude journaling every morning. Just write down 10 things I'm grateful for. It takes me like a few minutes. It's a nice way for me to start my day and appreciate all the good things I've got going on in my life. Those would be key ones for me.
I've got another question for you, Ryan.
Hey, whose interview is this?
It's the last one. Ryan, would you like what you just described was amazing. I really like that gratitude journal. I've read that the benefits of being grateful is one of the best things that you can do for well-being, because then it takes that focus away from all the shortfalls that you focus on in yourself, and you focus on the things that you're really grateful for. It can totally transform your thinking, and it takes discipline. But once you accomplish that, I hear, because I don't do it for myself, but I've read that it's really good. I was going to say, just for fun, would you like to be a Live Well, Build Well champion? Like what you're saying sounds incredible, man. We want people like you, got all these amazing.
Look, Rafael, happy to contribute. Would love to learn more about exactly what being a champion entails. Because when I go into something, I commit 100%. So let's have a chat offline. You can tell me more about being a champion.
Yeah, it's quite funny, Ryan. One last thing, like I joined Rotary one time. Just what you were saying about committing to something. And one of their big activities that I didn't know was that on Sundays they chopped firewood, so that firewood became like what they would sell to like make their money, which they fundraising. That's right. And then because I was the youngest one there, because these guys This is when I was in my 30s. These guys would have been in their 60s and 70s. Then I became the number one firewood chopper. And then I always remembered thinking to myself, I should have found out more about joining Rotary before I joined, man. So I know exactly what you're saying, but I promise you, you're not going to be chopping firewood on Sundays.
Yeah, I can just picture the sort of 15 supervisors and Rafael being the only guy doing any physical work.
Yeah, funny.
Okay. Hey, Rafael, it's been a really good conversation. Really encourage our listeners to jump in, learn more about Live Well, Build Well, access some of those great resources you've got on the website, YouTube, your social channels. We'll make sure we get those listed in the show notes so people can access them. Gratitude to you, sir, for what the contribution you make to our industry. And thanks for our chat today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and really appreciate the opportunity to get the message out. Thank you very much, Master Builders. Thank you very much, Brian.